How you doing today, folks? Now, before we get started, like, subscribe, share, and most importantly, comment, because I want to talk to all of you. Today, we got a first impressions video of this awesome knife. It's no secret, you saw the thumbnail, you saw the title. I'm actually pretty excited about this one, so let's check it out. Alright, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little confused right now. This knife is tiny. I didn't think the knife I was buying was tiny. I don't know if this is a clone or if I'm just stupid and didn't do enough research, but yeah. I'll get back to you guys. Alright, so false alarm, I'm just an idiot, and apparently this is the smallest Medford of all time. Not really, but it's pretty damn tiny. But anyways, let's get going. So, this is the Medford Infraction. Fun fact, I did not know this thing had a flipper tab. So, I'm back to taking Medfords that require wrist to flick. Though, I will say, this one goes out to that far whenever you flick it out. So, over time, this actually might flip. I'm also tempted to add jimping right here because this could totally be a front flipper. It's not going, but... it might work, I don't know. As usual, the best way of opening is that slow roll, that Medford smoothness. Though I will say, the lockup isn't very loud compared to how I normally like my Medfords. You can also spidey flick, but it's all in the wrist. It's all in the wrist. Anyways, sorry. Let's get going. So, how is the actual edge geometry as well as the blade and all that fun stuff? Very smooth, very clean, beautiful. We also have a very nice PVD blade. Medford's PVD is actually at a ridiculous Rockwell. I don't know the exact numbers, but good luck scratching this off. You could definitely do it with genuine abuse, but as far as everyday use, this is not going anywhere. This also has the S for S35VN, a little bit of branding, random number on the side, and the lock side, or spring scale as Medford calls it, is clean. Alright, so the action of the infraction is done with this very nice thumb hole. Very smooth. It does not have the loud Medford lockup, but it's decent. You can spidey flick it, though you definitely do require a wrist. There is also a flipper tab, and it only goes out about that far, but to be very clear, this is better by far than the fighter flipper. So over time, this might actually be able to flip without wrist. So that's exciting. The action on that slow roll is honestly ridiculously smooth. I'm actually very, very surprised. Medfords are always very smooth in general to me, but this one in particular just happens to be very, very smooth. It's actually kind of ridiculous. It might speak to it's a smaller knife, maybe it's something about the design, but whatever it is, I definitely love the action on this knife. So, ergonomically, this knife is actually really small. It's fairly light. It's pretty damn thick, which I like, but it definitely is on the smaller side. For me personally, I do have a pinky sticking off. It's not all the way off. It's about a quarter, but it's definitely there. If I choke up on it, it's a lot better, though the finger choil actually has a pretty profound hotspot right here. So while the actual handle itself is very nicely chamfered, it has a bit of contour, and it's actually really enjoyable in the hand. Using the actual choil puts you right on this weird little lip right here, and that is not comfortable at all. So if you have to use this knife with a choil the way I do, you might not like the ergonomics. However, the carry on this knife is actually wonderful. It's not the best I've ever had by far, but it's really, really good, especially for a Medford. It really kind of disappears in your pocket. It does have a little bit of a swaying motion to it because the clip is off center. But overall, it's still fantastic, and in carry and in pocket, I really like this knife. Now, as far as just the raw aesthetics, the pure looks of this knife, this thing is absolutely beautiful. I do feel like the blade hole did not need to be there. The fuller works just fine. In fact, more often than not, I find myself using the fuller, not the hole to open, so that's kind of a downside. But all this semi-futuristic milling is really very appealing to my eyes. I wish the milling carried over to the reverse side, but that's kind of a nitpick, I guess. I'm always a fan of proprietary hardware, though I do think it should ship with a tool. So I do wish this backspacer and this clip were satin to match the actual screws. That would be ideal, but again, it's a nitpick. I also very much appreciate the fact that they went with the regular clip. The gigantic M Medford clips are massive hotspots to say the very least, so this is definitely a preferred variant. Medfords all very much have a similar style to them. You can very much tell they're all from the mind of one man, and they all fit and sit in a very honestly unique and interesting way, and it's why I have quite a few of them. But the Infraction really isn't sized the way your typical Medford is. It was designed to fit your standard EDC roll and size weight carry ratio, and to be honest, for that, this is actually a fantastic knife because it perfectly balances out that ratio and honestly looks damn good while doing it. And while I personally prefer the big, thick, overbuilt monsters, this knife definitely does have a market, and that market is pretty damn wide, and for that, this works really, really well. Alright folks, we're at the point in the video where I need to do some research and have a little bit of thinking time, so in 3 days, I'll touch back with you and give you a solid first impressions of this knife. Alright, after 3 days of use, carry, and very minor abuse, I got a couple things to say about this knife. First off, if you have smaller hands, you are going to love this. The ergonomics are absolutely fantastic unless you use that finger choil. And then again, you're going to run into this thing right here, which does not feel good. As I had said previously, the carry for this knife is really genuinely enjoyable. And over time, I've definitely seen that much more in firsthand. This knife has actually been in my pocket pretty consistently throughout these 3 days. It's still a relatively thick blade stock, but it tapers down beautifully, so this thing is honestly kind of a laser beam. Unfortunately, the frame lock is really easy to block up, so if you put just a little bit of pressure right here, this knife will not deploy, or it'll feel very janky during deployment. Not a deal breaker, but definitely a thing. It's getting closer to a true flipper, but not quite there yet. You cannot feel the clip at all during use. And this jutting lanyard tube is actually pretty comfortable in the hand, which is surprising because it looks like a hot spot, but it's really not at all. Oh, and one more thing. It took 5 days, but it flips. So apparently it is possible. So Mr. Medford, what the hell is your excuse for the other ones? Anyways. Overall, this knife actually really and genuinely surprised me. The only problem with this knife is that the Strider .75 AR also exists, and all those things I mentioned, this knife does better. So, you know, it's a good knife, but the Strider .75 AR is a better one. But even still, I don't have much bad to say about this knife at all. My personal score as far as this knife is actually going to be very different than my EDC score. My personal score is going to be a 5 out of 10. It doesn't have any real problems. It's actually a fantastic knife. However, this is not made for my size of hand, so the ergonomics for me are kind of a miss. The way I have to carry it is always a hot spot, and honestly, there's just knives I like more. But again, this knife doesn't really have any true and genuine problems. This is just my personal opinion. As far as a generalized EDC roll, I would give this knife a 9.3 out of 10. Again, there are little issues here and there, but not anything major to speak of. And overall, this is honestly a fantastic knife. I think the price tag is a little bit high for what you currently get. However, it's much more reasonable compared to other Medfords. It's beautiful. I had my friend that has size large hands carry this knife for a little bit, and the ergonomics for him are fantastic, so it might just be me on the ergonomic front. It carries fantastic. It looks damn good, and honestly, I really, again, don't have anything bad to say about this knife. It's just not for me, but honestly, I really and truly believe it could be for you. Now, as always, folks, I love you all with all of my heart. I appreciate you all. Hope everybody stays safe out there. This life right now is crazy. So do the best you can not to make it worse. It's the best I can say. Try to find ways to love each other. Find ways to look past things if possible. Again, forgive, but don't forget, because we all must learn from our past and our lessons. But just in general, folks, I love you all. I appreciate you all. Hope you all have a fantastic day, morning, or night, whatever you are doing. Have a fantastic one. I love you all, and bye-bye.